it got turned more into like a battle versus how do we actually empower women.
Right,
You know
and
what
then
I
it
mean?
also, in some cases, turned into a battle against men. Feminism is not about diminishing men, it's just about empowering women, which men can certainly play a role in doing.
Yeah.
If you tell little girls that they're being oppressed, that's not empowering. That is giving somebody a victimhood mentality that tells them, I am not in control of my own life. That's the worst thing you can do to empower somebody. We've had some unfortunate experiences when it comes to women-only groups and groups claiming to be supporting and empowering women. And
Like feminism groups?
yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily feminism groups per se, but kind of in that vein, in the sense that it's like there to support women and then there's only women there.
Yeah.
Where we had this one experience where we joined a group, basically women doing coding. And so Isla and I joined because we were invited and we were like, oh, this is great. They were doing a conference, this was a virtual conference. You could come in and do your own sort of like speech about whatever you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and the conference was a live stream.
Yeah.
But they had us record our presentations beforehand.
Yeah. So then during the live stream, there were like actually live bits where after somebody had this pre-recorded tape presented, then people would hop on and we would like have a little tiny discussion transition to the next part. And so I had also volunteered to be part of one of those live segments. And they told us to wear the same clothes that we did during the recorded presentation.
And to be in like the same area?
Yeah, and this was so confusing because we're like, why is this the case? And we realized what they're trying to do is make it seem like these recorded presentations are live.
Yeah.
When they weren't. And we were like, okay, this is just it was disingenuous, and the fact that they told us to like even to wear the same clothes was just so weird. And here was the most disappointing part for me, was that when I went basically to like the backstage where they were having a Google Meet for all the people operating the conference.
I like actually like running the conference.
Yeah. Half of them were men when their whole thing is about, oh, these are women, and then up front doing all the conference and the speaking are all these women, and it's like,
but the people that are running the
behind
show
the scenes
are men.
And it's like,
so
it just seemed like a lot of like more performative kind of empowerment, but in a way that wasn't really what empowerment in our mind really means, which is to try to empower people with the skills and the knowledge and the confidence and the abilities to do anything that they would want to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that there's a lot, like we went to this Taekwondo tournament and there was this big billboard poster thing that was like, we support women in martial arts. And we were just kind of looking at it like,
okay, but like, by doing that, you're kind of, you're sort of communicating that other people are not, like,
right, that's
we
true.
support we support women in martial arts, and where it's like, I never got
like that needed to be stated.
Yeah, like I never got the impression that the other places we went to, or that the other things we were doing in martial arts wasn't supportive of women in martial arts. Like it was, it didn't really need to be part of the conversation with martial arts, and like in my experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's something that it is like, when it comes to actual empowerment, like that happens with individuals, whereas you put out a blanket statement on a poster, it's like, it just seems way more performative than it actually is in terms of practically actually empowering women, which is supposedly what this whole movement was supposed to be about. And I think we've kind of like, when our dad was in college, he joined basically every single club on campus, and he joined a feminism club, and he described himself as a feminist. And then they basically told him that men
wanted to support
females. Women, yeah. And so they said that men weren't allowed, when it's like, okay, isn't feminism just like, let's support and empower women? Like, can't men do that too?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? It's like, that was confusing.
It's like
you know?
turning it into something exclusive too, of
Right.
like everyone should be empowering women. And
Uh-huh.
it's not like I think it got turned more into like a battle than like a battle towards like, okay, we're fighting for feminism
Right.
versus like, okay, how do we actually empower women?
Right.
You know
And
what
then
I
it
mean?
also, in some cases, turned into a battle against men, which is
Yeah.
like, feminism is not about diminishing men. It's just about empowering women, which men can certainly play a role in doing,
Yeah.
and also to have like women only groups when it's like, to be empowered in the world that we're living in, you need to be able to operate amongst both genders, and
Yeah.
it's like, I think that there's a lot there that kind of got misconstrued into kind of something that was more about victimhood and thinking about being oppressed or being a minority when we're half the population. It's like not so much of a minority,
Yeah.
when it's like, okay, but there are actual ways in which empowering women is very, very important. But those seem to just be completely missed when it came to what we were seeing in our own experience.
Yeah. All of these things just seem like more outward facing,
Yeah.
rather than inward facing. Like, okay, don't target me because I am supportive of feminism.
Right.
Like, we support women in martial arts when there's already plenty of women in martial arts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then there's also like actually empowering women would look like building the confidence to speak in public, because that then you could actually do it live instead of pretending to do it live.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think maybe we could talk a little bit about ways in which we can actually empower women and why it is necessary, because I think obviously we've made a ton of progress in terms of supporting women, but one, in terms of supporting women's rights in other countries, I think that that's really important.
Right.
Our mom came from China, where she was born during the one-child policy, and her parents were able to have a boy because she qualified for disability. But like, her grandmother was like, I need to provide a son for my husband, right? And that was just the whole culture, and she was treated like just she was worthless or not able to.
Second class.
She was like a second class citizen, and like, the people around her, she was like very focused on her studies, and people just thought, people were like accusing her of cheating, saying like, oh, a woman can't be smart,
Yeah,
or like
she grew
do
up
these
in
things,
in the countryside of China, and like even like just when she was growing up, like, I'd say it's developed really fast. Like, and it's still developing, but like those things are still there. Like, definitely, especially in other countries, women are like women are oppressed in a lot of ways, like some places more than others. But like in America, I think we're definitely on the forefront of really developing like the empowerment for women. Like, just the fact that we can be out here speaking about the topic.
Yeah.
Whereas in some places it's like with children where it's like, oh, women are should only be seen and not heard.
Right.
And in other places it's they should not be seen at all.
Right. Yeah,
They
yeah.
should just be hidden away.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the fact that we can even speak about this and so much more is really shows that like in America we're definitely on the forefront of this movement, and we're doing really well.
Yeah, and also, but I think that what's disappointing about what happened is that if you tell little girls that they're being oppressed, that's not empowering. That is giving somebody a victimhood mentality that tells them, I am not in control of my own life. And that's the worst thing you can do to empower somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the biggest disappointing part about what's been going on, is it's like to try to come up with things to blame is not the way to solve the problem. And
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely a lot to contend with the issue of how women can overcome certain struggles. And part of it is coming from an evolutionary standpoint in terms of knowing what women have come from and how we can start to make progress by educating women about what are the things that they might struggle with. Women are on average are less assertive and are more risk averse. And the reason why is because throughout all of evolution, women had to raise children and try to navigate the world with an infant that is at very high risk, and then women are also smaller, so it's harder for them to try to assert themselves, so it's like there are certain issues that the way to solve the problem is not like, let's promote women instead of men. It's like, no, let's arm women with the skills to get the promotion for themselves. And that's like, and that's a mindset that is about ownership and responsibility. And I think that mindset can only come from an education about, like, how do you become powerful and what are the kinds of things that might prevent you from getting there.
But also starting from a basis of, like, none of these things are preventing you from getting there. Like, all of these things can be overcome, if you intentionally, try and work on that. And all of these things, and like, what are your strengths? Not just about like, okay, you have all these struggles and all these things pressing against you. But look, you can do so many things. You have such great potential. All of these things that you mentioned of like being smaller and like harder to project yourself, these things you can definitely grow upon. Like, they're not constraining. They're just a basis that you can improve upon.
Right.
And like, when I see the sign of like we support women in martial arts, it just makes me think like, it's like that it brings my mind to like, wait, I'm a woman in martial arts,
Right.
Is there something wrong here?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas like, I didn't see anything wrong here. I didn't see there to be a problem. Is there a problem?
Right.
And it can make you feel like you're more oppressed, even if there's nothing there, if it's that constantly brung to your attention.
Yeah, that's kind of related to that. One thing that I found kind of annoying is that when people would talk about like, oh, you need like women role models and like strong female leaders as an example for yourself, when it's like that's putting women in a different category, when I feel like that's overemphasizing like what I think should be the right way to think about like finding examples for yourself, is that you can learn from everybody and you can find examples of role models that are similar to you in certain ways. But they're, just because, there's, one sort of like demographic alignment, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden this is the example that I need to use.
And there's no reason why I can't, work toward and be inspired to being more like Tony Robbins, because he's not female. But just because I am doesn't mean that I can't be like him.
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't exercise those strengths. If you only constrain yourself to, female role models, it tells yourself that like you can't be like those male role models. That enforces the oppression or the victimized thinking.
Yeah, and I think that having a culture that is trying to support women, given that, women have come from a disadvantaged place from a historical perspective, and is really important in terms of being able to call out when there is something that is a problem. Like, if somebody is being sexist, you want a culture in which you can call that out and people will back you up, right? But then at the same time, you also don't want a culture that overemphasizes it in a way that's actually counterproductive to what you were trying to do in the first place. And the way you actually empower women is you spend more time with your daughters instead of protesting like sexism. Like, that's not actually impacting real individuals. And and actually empowering women comes at an individual level. I think that that's what is most important when it comes to these, broad changes, is that it has to happen through individuals making better decisions with the other individuals in their lives.